Hello, everybody. Looks like we are just about to get started. Hello, everyone. I am so excited that you are here. Let's see if I can sort out this comment thing again. I know we go through it every single time. And I think part of the problem is I do not ever remember what I'm supposed to do. I figure it out when we're here, and then I don't know. I just pass it out of my head because I move on to what we're talking about. So, welcome. If you are just joining us live, go ahead and pop on and let me know you're there. If you are, see if I can get this. I'm going to figure it out. I swear, you guys. And one of these days I'll actually remember it. If you are, let's go get rid of that. There we are. Coming in, and even if you're watching it as a replay, let me know that you're watching it as a replay. And any questions, any thoughts as we go through this, because this is a question I get asked a lot. So it's probably the most common thing that comes up for coaches, where people want to know, like, what's my purpose? And that's what I want to talk about today. It's you know what? I love all of these topics. They're all my favorite. Nothing quite hits quite like energy vampires, probably just because the world we're in right now. But I love this topic. So I can't figure out how I made this work for me last time, but let's hope for the best. All right, I'm going to jump in, and maybe if somebody ends up commenting, oh, I wonder if I go like this. No, that wasn't how I did it last time. Oops. Let's not do that. Comments. What have I done, you guys? I really created chaos for myself. Oh, that's not good. All right. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to hope for the best here. Let's jump in. All right. So today we are talking about purpose, and how to align with it without overthinking. So first, I really want us to discuss what finding our purpose really looks like. So what if finding your purpose wasn't about searching, but is actually about remembering? And we hear these things and we think, oh, how am I supposed to remember this? Like, do I ask before bed? Well, according to a lot of spiritual teachers, yes, asking before you go to bed. Usually if you ask the same question before you go to bed for clarity, you will get a response within 3 days, about 72 hours. And so that can look like a quick download or an understanding, or suddenly you notice something that you hadn't been noticing. So that is one way that we can get a question remembered. And so it's kind of like we're asking our higher self, our most core central self, at a time where we dissociate from the body. So when we go through sleep, the layers of consciousness in sleep, we go from being what we consider unconscious, which is waking. And then we move through dream state, which is actually where we release excess emotional stress, which is why we have certain types of dreams. And then when we go into deep sleep, we release excess physical stress, which is why people will get like restless legs, or they'll toss and they'll turn as the body's trying to release stresses. And then as we go into the next state, we kind of actually, it's almost like we become unembodied. And so it's like the spirit gets to take a bit of a break from the body. The ego's put to sleep, and so now we can be in full placement of ourself. And so it's a place where we can enter into and get a lot of the answers to the questions that we have been looking for. And that's why asking questions before sleep works. But one of the big things when it comes to purpose is so many people, we really stress, I have stressed about finding my purpose. And we think about, I'm waiting for some big, clear, magical moment. And that was certainly me. And I'm waiting for somebody to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And the thing is purpose isn't actually found, it's really revealed. And it's revealed to us through the ways that we show up in the choices that we make, as well as the energy that we bring to a moment. So today I want to show you why overthinking your purpose is keeping you stuck, just like it did for me for a long time. How to align with your purpose naturally without forcing it. And then 3, one simple shift that will help you feel like you feel more fulfilled to start moving through it today. So first, I want to talk about the overthinking, because this is a place that I got really, really stuck for many, many years. And so in the overthinking is the fact that purpose is not actually a job title. And so for those of you that knew me prior to this chapter of my life, I used to be in lighting. I did more corporate. I loved the world I was in at the time. I still enjoy lighting now. Every so often I called out of retirement and help my husband or help a friend go figure out something that's going on with their house. And I still love design. Build our own houses and design our own houses. So it's still there. It's not that that really goes away, but I just realized it wasn't fulfilling me. It wasn't meeting all of my needs. What's cool is looking back, it was actually that job that helped me with what I do now. And so it's about how we show up. So first off, we need to understand that our purpose is not actually a job title. So I was actually living a big chunk of my purpose while I was in my previous chapter. Excuse me, sorry. We've been conditioned to believe, that purpose equals our career, and it does not. And the thing is purpose is about energy, and it's not a job description. And you can live in your purpose no matter what you do for work. And so one of the things I always remember, and I remind and talk to clients about, is that my son, when he was younger, he was in high school, and he went to Highland School here in Courtenay, and well, I guess technically in Comox. Excuse me. And when he was in school, he really struggled through high school. This is typical of teens. They start to slide, who am I not? There's a lot going on in their lives. And my son had gone through a series of things. So we had some issues with self-harm. We had issues with drugs. We had issues with him contemplating suicide. And a lot of it, he didn't really come and talk to us about. He told us some of it, but not all of it. And what was really interesting is at his grad, what I noticed was every year, all the kids said thank you to the janitor of the school. And when I talked to my son about it, he explained that the janitor is the person that made the greatest impact on his life while he was in high school, at least from high school. And I was like, well, what is that? And he's like, well, that's who, like, if you were sitting on the stairs as a teen and you were struggling, he would come and sit with us and, just listen. Didn't need to give us advice, didn't need to tell us what to do. He would just listen. And I was absolutely blown away. Here's this guy that is the janitor of the high school, and every single student that I talk to that has come from that school talks about him and says how much of an impact he made on their life. And here's a person walking their purpose, and it doesn't need to be in the job itself, but it's how he shows up and represents himself in that job that makes so much of the difference. And so I say this because a lot of us feel like, oh, well, can living my purpose be, I was a stay-at-home mom. Well, sometimes that feels like it when our kids are home, but then what? Or, I'm a waitress. I was a waitress for years. How can I live my purpose there? But you can, because there's times like when I was serving in Victoria where it's the way that you treat somebody, or you smile, or you look them in the eye. And that might be the first smile and the first time somebody's looked them in the eye in a really long time. And so when we have those moments, that is how we show up and live purpose every single day. The problem is a lot of times our ego gets involved, and our ego, simplify it, our ego is created when we identify with form. And so our physical form, our bodies, our thought forms, our thoughts, our ideas, our beliefs, our intellect, and our emotional form. So our emotions, I'm angry, I'm an angry person, I'm a loving person, I'm a kind person. So we identify with the monads and also with our past experiences and our memories. And so the problem is in the environment and like our jobs and that sort of thing. So as we identify with all these things, our ego kind of takes control, and the ego is within subconscious mind. And so as these things are coming up, we can't see beyond that. And the ego likes praise. It likes somebody patting them on the back. Even if we're not wanting to stand in the middle of a stage in grand gestures, it still feels good for people to tell us that they've made a difference. And so the ego often is like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something more than this. And so that's where the ego can get involved and throw us actually off course instead of us helping us get on course. I'm going to take a drink here because it's just killing me. And so the second part of that is that purpose evolves and is not one thing. So you don't just have one purpose, and what lights you up will help shift as you grow. And so the key to learning what to follow is really following what energizes you. So where this came in for me, I'm just going to check that piece. It's still griefing me. Nope, it's all good. So where this came in for me was when I was in lighting, the favorite part of my job was actually helping people. So as much as I enjoyed the design of light and, creating a beautiful home and giving people the feeling that they wanted in that room and in that home, that actually wasn't what lit me up. What absolutely lit me up about my job was when people would come in, they'd be stressed out about their house, about their build, their reno, whatever, and helping them get grounded, get calm, get settled with each other. A lot of couples coming in fighting, and they used to joke and ask me how much I owed them or how much they owed me for the couples counseling session. And so that's what lit me up. It lit me up to see people leave excited about their home again when they'd been coming in super stressed, because lighting's often at the end. And so those things lit me up. And it was through that it was actually my spiritual coach, who was one of my teachers. She's still my spiritual director. And she was one of my clients actually at the time. And she was like, Dawn, you're supposed to be coaching. And I blew it off for a long time, like a couple of years. And I constantly kept asking, because I was feeling like something was off. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was feeling like something was kind of empty. And I was like, no, I paid really well. I have an amazing career. I have a lovely life. And I just kept thinking, you should be just grateful for what you have. And I just couldn't figure it out. And she was like, Dawn, you're not walking your path. And so as I started to understand that it lit me up, I could have stayed there, and I probably would have if I hadn't been on a spiritual quest at the same time. And so I think what happened was, with my spiritual quest and my desire to evolve, what is my truth? Who am I? All these questions were starting to come up. There was no way for me to stay within the world of lighting, of stuff and things, and at the same time continue that evolution. And so the only way I had to break, for me personally, that's not for everybody, but for me personally, it was creating this dichotomy. And so I wasn't feeling settled in my own skin anymore. And so therefore the need was for me to move, was to change. And I didn't listen to my whispers. I did not listen to the direct discussions from my spiritual coach and director. I dragged my feet. I took some training. I took like leadership coaching, thinking I would do coaching in like the lighting in the corporate world. And it was like, none of that was flowing. It just wasn't right. It wasn't, it was like, what was it? My ego could handle that. My ego could totally handle that. And my ego was really struggling with me becoming a coach, something that a career I didn't really understand and didn't really, honestly, I hadn't respected it prior to being told I was supposed to do it. And I was like, now all of a sudden you want me to do something that, I've been around people who think coaching's a joke. And I was like, oh no, this cannot be my deal. And so I fought hard. And all of a sudden, I'm in 2 car accidents within a week. And within 6 months, I'm on permanent disability. And life changes. And all of a sudden, it's like, you better get on track. And so, it's how we show up, though, because I was in those moments, it was lighting me up. And so once we start to see what's lighting me up, and know that when I say that, sometimes it can be hard to tell because we have judgments and expectations about our purpose. So the moment we stop judging and making statements, and we start getting curious and asking questions, there's a greater ability for us to explore and understand and even experience our purpose in this world. So once we're actually present, instead of like, it should be like this, or I should have been doing that, or I didn't do that, we're outside. The moment we come in and we get super present and we're just here. We're just right now. It's Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, right? Be here. Your purpose is to be in this moment. And so it's not a job. It's absolutely about being present in your life. And when we find that presence, then it may be that we absolutely stay, like the janitor at Highland. Like, I can tell you, I am so freaking grateful for that man every day, because he absolutely was involved in me still having my son. And other people might be like, oh, a janitor, but I'm like, oh, for me, I'm like probably one of the people I'm most grateful for in this world. So it's not about the job that we have. It's not about the career. It's how we're showing up in it. And so that becomes the first question we have to ask ourselves is, how am I showing up? Am I showing up saying, oh, it's not a very good job, or like, oh, I'm only going to put in 50%? Then that's what you're going to get out of it, which means you're not going to feel fulfilled no matter what you're doing. And you can change your career over and over and over again, and it's not going to matter, because the career isn't what does it. The job isn't what does it. It's how you show up in that job that makes all the difference in you finding joy and peace in your life. And that's what starts to open the doors. That's what opened every single door in my life. I can look back, and I've done it a ton of, research looking back at my own life, like how that all happened. But it was being absolutely present, grateful for being in that moment each time, that opened up every single door that made my life continue to move and really explode and have the life I have now. And it was always following a nudge, but I could only follow the nudge by being present and being grateful. And so that becomes a major piece of how we find and explore and realize our purpose in this world. So think back to a time where you felt deeply fulfilled. What were you doing? Who were you with? And how did you feel? And so when I look back and I was like, oh, where did I feel deeply fulfilled? It was in those moments with clients. That's when I felt the most fulfilled outside of my home. But even in my home, when did I feel the most fulfilled? With my friends, with my husband, with my kids, when I was coaching. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh. And it was the role I held with almost every friendship I had. I was the person that you called only when you wanted to make a change in your life. I was never the person you called to complain about things, long before I was a coach. And so I hadn't been realized. I couldn't see myself. My spiritual director could see me. I could not see myself at all. And even now, I've got 4 coaches that I work with. So I have like my writing personal coach that does my writing and my speaking as well. And then I have my energy coach, and she also does, some clarity work with me as well. And we do tapping, and so we do that side. And then I still have 2 business coaches. So like there's these people that I get to bounce things off of, because they can see what I can't. And every time they're the ones that have asked the right question to unlock something where I'm like, oh yeah, I wasn't seeing that. So keep that in mind when we're with our people. What's lighting you up? Because you might not be seeing it. It's sitting right in front of you. And so getting curious and asking ourselves questions helps us get into that place, helps us remember again, kind of trigger something. And so how do we align to our purpose naturally? Well, some of that we've been talking about, but we follow what feels expansive. And so much like that, in those moments that felt expansive. My problem for a long time is I would expand like, oh, I love this. And as soon as somebody would say you should be coaching, I'd be like, oh, because I had fear. So it wasn't that it wasn't this piece. I had so much fear about what other people were going to say and think about me. And no one had any idea that I was concerned with that at all. And I was always concerned with that. I was absolutely concerned with it. It was safety and survival for me. And so the idea of not being praised, but even worse, to be rejected by my mentors, by the people that had told me I was good at what I was doing, and then all of a sudden to change that and have them disappointed in me, it was too much. It just overwhelmed me, and I couldn't get through it. And the odd thing is the day of my first accident, I'd actually been up in my studio. I had a studio in our house at the time. Actually, I had a different shift that day. I was like, oh no, that was a different shift. So the morning of the first accident, we were building our house, and I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed, had some issues with staff, and I was like, I just don't know how to stop this wheel that I'm on. I don't even know how to stop it. Like, I just need your help. Like, I need help. And then the accident happened. I don't know, maybe, I'm going to guess 7-8 hours later. And it was clear as day. You asked for this. So I always tell everybody when I'm coaching, be careful what you ask for. Be really clear. Make those lessons gentle and kind, please. So, and I do ask for greater gentleness now. I am very specific. Actually, I just say no hitting. So when I'm asking for clarity and guidance, I'm like, I just need some clarity and guidance here, please, and no hitting. So whatever your way of asking that question is, that's how we can get the support that we need from our guides and our guardians. And so following that expansion, understanding that know if contraction is physical in my body, or is that contraction in your mind first? So if it begins with the thoughts, no, what will people say about me? That's a mental issue, that's ego. And so the mind is where ego controls best, which is why being the more, we get in our head, the further away from our soul, from our purpose we get. And so we want to get out of our head and back into our body for somatic experience. And so if I was in work and I wasn't letting this roll, then it was like, I feel so good to open here. But the moment that I was in my head, the contraction was actually coming from my fear thoughts, not because it wasn't the right thing for me. And so the more that we can get into the body, the easier it'll be to know, should I do this or should I do that? And if we just get really quiet and take the pause and the breath, we'll start to be guided in that direction. And the more we practice it, the stronger and clearer those signs and nudges start to become. So pay attention to what you already naturally feel drawn to, and that's where purpose is unfolding from. And so keep that in mind, just like as I said with my own, and even, with this janitor, great example of somebody who canceled and coached, but without the title. So sometimes our purpose is not the title, it's how we're doing it. And then we want to release the idea. So one is to align with our purpose. We want to follow what feels expansive. And then 2, we want to release the idea that purpose needs to be big. So as I mentioned before, that's mostly our ego that does that. So your purpose might not be starting with a global movement. It's funny because right now it's been my purpose and push for the last 2 years has been almost like a drumbeat. So I've done shamanic journeys with my couple of my guides, my shamanic teacher, and every time it's like sovereignty, sovereignty, sovereignty. And I'm like, mine? And then it's like it just keeps going, and it's like, no, it's your mission. You need to move. And it was like, oh God. And that's what propelled me to be like, okay. And then all of a sudden it was like the perfect opportunity opened up for my coach, Sarah Connell, to start working with her. And then it was like from her, the next thing unfolded, and she's like, you need to be visible. And I created the Facebook group, and I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And she's like, keep going, and the YouTube, and now the podcast has begun. And for me now, it's become a global movement because I'm doing what I'm told to do. But I'm on a 6-year surrender experiment, or on my 6th year of the surrender experiment. And I tell you, every single time life gets contorted, or I feel scared, or I feel tight, or I feel anxious, it is always because I got into my head and I got out of my body. And as soon as I get back into alignment with myself, it's like, whoop, the power goes right up, and I have so much energy and clarity, and I can just go and go and go and go and go. And it's not that sometimes I don't feel scared. I do. I just keep moving anyways. And so keep that in mind, that it doesn't need to be big. This has grown to this for myself now. And even then I'm like, I have no idea where it'll go. I have no idea. Could be that I just need to create the podcast for one person to hear it. And when I have, then I'll be told to do whatever I'm told to do. And I have to trust every single time I make a move that this is what I'm being asked to do. And I always have to go in and hear the answer. And so keep that in mind. Every single answer that you need is inside of you. And that's why coaching is so powerful, is coaching is about asking questions, nudging and pushing. I'm a contrarian, so I tend to nudge and push and ask hard questions. But I do that because a lot of people grow in discomfort, and I'm all about resiliency. And so that's my way of doing it. But coaching is about asking powerful questions and gives the opportunity to relate through story. And that's why coaching can really work for people to go from where you are now to where you want to go. And that's not a pitch like for having a coach. That's the point of it, is to help us move. And you may have coaches or mentors that you have in your life and you haven't even realized what they are for you. And so for a lot of people, their great coach or their great spiritual teacher is a book. And that was what it's been for me for a long time. I didn't start getting physical coaches and teachers to work with until I think my first one was Fiona Black. From here in the Valley, and she was amazing, and she really helped me get out of my head and into my heart, and it was like over and over again to work with her to try and like get into my body, because I was so dissociated from trauma and from pain. Once I got into my body, things started to unlock even faster and started to move. And so that was my first coach. And then after Fiona, I wasn't given anybody for a while. I was like begging for a teacher, and it was like, nope. You need to do this on your own. You're not hiding behind anybody. And then finally I got Megan Waddy from Ancient Origins, and she is a shaman. And so I got to work with her for a year. And then it was like this perfect transition where she was going to go on a journey and take 6 months off, and boom, Sarah Connell came in. And so, but prior to them, every single teacher, and actually still a lot of my spiritual teachers, are through books. And so it could be anywhere that we get this information from. It could be a podcast, it could be a YouTube, it could be Facebook Live. So, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go get a coach. It just means that having people, guides out there that will help guide us in the right direction is important for us. Because we're not meant to do all of this on our own. But the answers are there within us, and a guide just helps us access those answers. And then, so we want to release the idea that the purpose has to be big. And so, it might be the way that it looks like everybody else is doing. But like, take Mel Robbins, it started off with like, oh, she just wanted to speak on stage. And so she's like, how do I get more speaking gigs? And now it's like become a global movement. And so it may be something small and it might grow big, or it might remain that you will always be a person who's running their purpose one-on-one, quietly, in a different way. So don't underestimate the value of like your purpose being within how you parent, how you mother, how you nurture. So what that great purpose is inside. And doesn't involve the ego. And then 3, we want to take small aligned actions daily. And so I'm sure you've probably heard me say this before, and I say it a lot, and I'll say it again. It is not great big gestures and grand gestures. We don't need to quit our job. We don't need to sell our home. We don't need to blow up the marriage. It's not that at all. It's little tiny micro movements. One step. We just start pivoting a little bit. 1 degree changes. 1 degree changes. And if we keep making 1 degree changes, the thing is as we keep going, even if you only made the 1 degree, in a long time, you'd be quite a ways away. But if we keep making 1 degree changes, it's 90 days, you're in a 90 degree turn. And so think about how that looks for you in your life. You can make great big movement by making small, tiny little steps. And it may be things like figuring out what your values are, and then figuring out what your boundaries need to be, and figuring out like, what do I feel like when I'm calm and in peace? And then when I'm not in peace, what is that saying? And so remember that more important than the purpose, we always think of the purpose as outside in our outer world, but we actually have purpose that's actually more important than the outer purpose, and that's our intrinsic purpose. And our very first purpose, and we all have the same one, is to know thyself. Who am I? And I'm not talking about your ego, which is the roles that you play. I'm talking about the one that is playing the roles. That is your first purpose. Your second purpose, so primary purpose, secondary purpose, is then to embody it. And so it's that embodiment of the answer that helps shift. And then the third intrinsic purpose is actually to support others doing the same. And that's the one that starts to really bridge. As we activate those, we start to bridge over into our purpose in the outer world as well. And so then we can we can do them both at the same time, but that is really where we have an outer purpose and an inner purpose. And keep that in mind when we are doing this work, that it's not always about what's out there and everybody else. It's about what's in here. And who am I and how am I showing up? How am I showing up for me? Think that first before you ask, how am I showing up for everybody else? How am I showing up for me today? And it's not selfish. It is the most loving, respectful thing you can do. And if love and respect is in you, that is what you will perpetuate out. If pain and hurt and self-denial are inside of you, that is what you will perpetuate out. And that is why it's so freaking important that we do our own internal work. We are our only project. Everybody else is their own. You are. And it's through doing our own healing work that we inspire other people to do their healing work. I hope this lit something in you guys today. I really wish I could get the comments to work today, but instead of actually activating them, I closed them all together and I can't see anything. So we'll figure that out next time. Things coming up. My new podcast has started. And it is dropped. So we have 4 episodes dropped on Friday. And we have 4 more episodes that'll be dropping tomorrow. Oh my God. So we'll have 8 episodes total out there tomorrow. And then it's going to drop 1 episode every single Friday. So I'll share those with you as they come out, you guys. But yeah, super pumped about that. And I would love your feedback on it. So I would love if you checked it out. As always, please subscribe, follow, help me get the word out there of what we're talking about, and really just inspiring people to find their truth. That's what this is really about. So help me do that. And what else do we have? We have a new YouTube that'll be coming out tomorrow. I'll share that with you guys here. And coming up, it's not ready for you guys yet, but coming up, I'm going to be doing a new boot camp, and it is called The Unlearning. And it's going to be 5 days for 1 hour a day. And it is absolutely free, and it will be recorded. So if you sign up and you can't make 1 or 2 or even all of them, they'll be recorded and you'll be emailed the recordings. So you can always see them after. So I'll let you know when that's coming, but it's a 5-day boot camp called The Unlearning, where we unravel the masks, unravel these limiting beliefs, unravel all the bullshit and lies that we've been told so that we can get to the brilliant light that's within us. I'm excited. Talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a magnificent week, and I will chat with you on the other side. Bye for now.